Hey guys, Andrew Adkison here, and today I'm going to share with you my tips and tricks for how to get someone up on a wake surfer for the very first time. And not just how to get someone else up, but how to teach someone to wake surf. All right, the starting point for teaching someone how to wake surf actually happens on dry land or on the back of the boat. So the first position is kind of leaning back, sitting back, and getting pulled forward into what I call a cannonball position, because it's similar to a position that you'd be in if you're doing cannonball into a swimming pool. From the cannonball position, we get rocked into a baseball catcher position. From baseball catcher, we kind of pause there for a second so we can allow the boat to get speed, and then we stand up slowly. All right, now it's time for the fun stuff. It's time to get in the water. Let's take the rope out of the equation. Let's take everything out of the equation other than just floating there and being comfortable in the water in that position. But I'm telling you, if you put people in the water just to float with their heels on the board like a floating footstool, you will save yourself 5 or 6 attempts of getting them up for the first time. First step when you're floating in the water with your heels on the board is scoot them really close to the heel side edge of the board. That's the edge of the board that's closest to you. What that does is allows the board to fold up to your feet. One of the biggest mistakes is that people will have their heels in the middle of the board, and that board's just going to plow along the surface of the water. If your heels are scooted, within a couple inches of the side of the board, as you start to go, that board will fold up to your feet, which is step one in standing up. So make sure proper foot position is happening, and then barely tap the boat into the gear. As driver, you want technique, not torque. You want to make sure that your rider is in the right position, and you're not just trying to force them out of the water. And as the rider, you're in the cannonball position, the boat starts to go just a little bit of forward momentum, 1 or 2 miles an hour. You see them kind of engage from cannonball shifting upwards into the baseball catcher position. And for the rider, you need to be thinking about, okay, step one, I want the top of my shoulders going to the top of the sky. First step is sit up, and now allow yourself to rock forward into baseball catcher, pushing the board under you. From there, the driver sees that, starts to accelerate, allows the surfer to get outside the wake before it forms up. Once they're outside, go ahead and accelerate to a point where they're planed off. And at that point, the rider can start to slowly rise up. Now we're on the wave, and now we're going to try to find the pocket. I found the best way to do this is get that rope length really at that perfect length. That length is where you're looking at the wave and the wake starts to curl over, you want to be just about a half foot or a foot in front of that. Because what we're trying to do is find that balance point of where we go from being dragged to being pushed. But what tends to happen is that we all kind of find it in the extremes. We're really dragging, and then we're really on the gas pedal. And we're really hitting the brake, and then we're really accelerating. This isn't just pushing on your front foot or pushing on your back foot. What you actually do is rock your center of gravity back or rock your center of gravity forward. And what's going to happen is you're going to find that you don't have to gas as much as you think, and you don't have to brake as hard as you think. But that progression is going to go back of the pocket, hard on the brakes, start to shift your weight onto your front foot so you start to accelerate forward and go and hit the brakes again. And you want to try to find that point where you can kind of stretch out that feeling and that process to where you're more floating and that rope is slack. Now that you found that pocket, it's time for the good stuff. You're going down the lake, that rope is staying slack. You've got an understanding and that feeling of how much weight to shift towards your back foot or your front foot to stay in that pocket and keep that rope slack. Now it's time to drop the rope and surf. Hey, thanks for listening in today on some of the best practices and tips and tricks that I've gathered over the last couple decades for helping people get up on the water for the first time. If you have any more questions or ideas of your own, please make sure to DM us on our social media channels. Thank you for being a part of the Mastercraft family.